Are we on? Yeah. There we go. Okay, so apologies for the few minutes delay. Dan, would you mind giving the invocation this evening?
Sure. Thank you. I'd like to read from Jeremiah 29, beginning verse 7. Seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I've carried you to. This is what the Lord God Almighty says. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord. So tonight I pray that in all things, Lord, that you are the one who gives us a hope and a future, and to be with every decision, to be with every family. And Lord, I just thank you for your protection on this city and all the things that we are called to do, Lord. And I just thank you that you are the Lord of this city. In Jesus, I pray.
Amen. Thank you, Dan. So now we will officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller.
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman.
Here.
McClanathan.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Busker.
Here.
Brashaw.
Here.
Misick.
Here.
And Berberet.
Here.
And if you could please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Parker.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with item number 1, which is approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Busker.
We have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Busker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on February 18th, 2020. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Bradshaw, seconded by Alderman Misick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 3 is public comments. We have none that are written down. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be routine in nature unless there's an item that one of the council would like to have removed for further discussion. Is there anything, council? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving and placing on file the Library Board of Trustees minutes from January 8th, 2020, the Historic Preservation Commission minutes from November 2019 and January 2020, Building Commission minutes from December 2019, the Planning Commission minutes from December 2019 and January 2020, the Firefighters Pension minutes from July and October of 2019, the Police Pension Fund minutes from October 31st, 2019, the Board of Fire and Police Commission minutes from December 19, January 20, February 20, and the Fire Department reports for January 2020, and the Greater Freeport Partnership monthly report dated February 26, 2020, the Sosnowski-Zito LLP engagement agreement dated February 7th, 2020, the Treasurer's Firefighter Pension fiscal year-end report from May 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019, and the Treasurer's Police Pension fiscal report, year-end report from May 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. Also is the approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $1,020,558.46, and the approval of payroll for pay period ending February 15th, 2020 in the total of $561,734.01. Is there a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Brashaw. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker.
Yes.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Misick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the recognition of service awards by Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Come on up, Matt. We have one award tonight. It's my pleasure to recognize, I've known Matt now for 3 years, and it's my pleasure to recognize Police Chief Matt Summers for 25 years of service. I know it's this last 3 months have been probably the most interesting 3 months of your service, and you also get a $25 Greater Freeport Partnership gift certificate with that. So, congratulations.
Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you.
Item number 6 are some appointments. If, Madam Clerk, could you please read those?
Acceptance of appointment of Dale Hamilton to the Historic Preservation Committee effective immediately through February 28th, 2023. Acceptance of appointment of Steve Cox to the Enterprise Zone effective immediately.
And if it's okay with the council, we'll do that as one motion.
So moved.
I'd second that.
We have a motion made by Alderman Berberay, seconded by Alderman Borneman. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berberay,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the second reading of ordinance 2020-08. Could you please read this?
An ordinance to approve no parking along Willard and Dirk Drives.
Thank you. Is this Director Carr? Is that for you?
We are, for the council's, we have made a modification, an amendment to that, so that will need to be approved since we went through first reading prior to that. And what that is amendment has, is Willard Drive, both sides from Dirk Drive, 50 feet east between November 1st and April 30th of each year, and Dirk Drive east side from Willard 50 feet north and south between November 1st and through April 30th of each year. This is establishes the winter parking rules in this area. I did forward this to the owner and have not received a response back from her. So that would be a that would be an amendment.
Is there discussion on the amendment only, council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw?
thank you. Manager Crowe, would they post it for those exact time frames in that neighborhood?
They will be. They aren't now, but they will be. And that's the time of concern that we have, right? I'll turn that over to Dennis to discuss that a little bit further.
Yes, I mean, that's a majority of when our snowfall would take place. It wouldn't have helped us this year on Halloween, but I don't know how many times it's going to snow on Halloween.
Follow-up, Mayor? Thank you. I realize that the owner had written an email requesting consideration of this matter. Would that fall within the parameters of what she requested?
It would. She asked it for particularly during the winter hours, and when I responded back to her, I think I infoed all those that were infoed on the email that we are modifying those.
Well, if the council is not opposed to this, then I was one of them that motioned for this to move forward. I would like to make a motion for the modification to reflect the changes listed here with I believe it's a 6-month effect. Is that correct? All of the restrictions will be in effect from November 1st through April 30th?
Yes, that's 6 months.
As written then. That is my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Parker for the amendment to read from November 1st through April 30th. So unless there's any other discussion on that part of it, Alderman McClanathan,
Mayor.
did you have something?
Thank you. I just note I did have an opportunity to speak by phone with the manager there, or the owner there, and the question was raised, but that Alderperson Brashaw had was, is this going to be posted on the signs, you know, the months in regards to it? So as long as it's that, I think it's a pretty fair accommodation for all sides, and obviously we can readdress it if it's not working out for either end down the road. So I'd be in favor of the amendment and then approval after as amended.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Just in case something like the Halloween snow, it wouldn't have affected that. Is there any way we could put in a clause in there unless otherwise a snow emergency is issued?
On snow emergency, sorry, Mayor.
Okay,
On-
go
on-
ahead.
On snow emergencies, everybody's gonna have to comply by those rules anyway, so I think that would cover an emergency situation. Unless someone tells me I'm wrong on that, but okay, all right.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Madam Clerk, could you take the roll on the passage of the amendment only?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The amendment passes 8-0.
Okay, so now we're looking for a passage on the amended version of 2020-08. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes as amended 8-0.
And item number 8 is second reading for ordinance 2020-09. Could you please read this?
An ordinance adopting a revised City of Freeport employee handbook.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The modifications as discussed in the last handbook, I did send out to all of the council members the sheet that we had that goes along with the modification, which will not be part of the handbook, but for the modification for education benefits that was put together by Director Bucas, myself, and manager, the Human Resources Manager, and reviewed by Roxanne Cisnowski, Attorney Cisnowski. But this has all the changes that we've discussed at both the Committee of the Whole as well as last council meeting, and recommend approval. It will go into effect immediately after approval.
Any questions, council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw?
I was just going to say at the Committee of the Whole meeting, I think we hashed over all of it and asked all our questions at that time, so I'm happy with it.
All right, unless there's any other discussion. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Next is the second reading of ordinance 2020-10. Could you please read this?
An ordinance amending Part 8 Business Regulation and Taxation Code, Chapter 886 Hotel Tax, and Chapter 810 Bed and Breakfast Establishments and Vacation Rentals of the Codified Ordinances.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This again installs hotel motel tax for VRBO and Airbnb. Once we get this passed, we will forward it to both websites. We already have received, we know, hotel motel tax from one Airbnb locations, and so we know that we are receiving them in the city, but this will get us covered for hotel motel tax under this. And it was patterned after similar type ordinances in other communities. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Alderman Berbere.
Manager Crowe, does this mean that this ordinance only applies to Airbnbs and VRBO, but not to regular
No, this
B&Bs?
modifies strictly
Okay.
our current.
So we're using the proper noun Airbnbs to describe the concept, but it's for any B&B.
It specifies in there as vacation rental.
Right.
Defines it. So those are the two major websites.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
Anything further, council? Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the passage of 2020-10?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
and Ross.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Item number 10 is second reading of ordinance 2020-11. Could you please read this?
An ordinance amending various provisions of Chapter 1046, sewers generally, of the Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. Director Kopansky.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. On February 18th, I had a presentation as to modifications to the sewer use ordinance. I have not received any communication back from US EPA as to any changes, so it is in its form that it was 2 weeks ago. No update.
Mayor.
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here at first reading, so just a couple questions. One, for most of the general language, this is stuff that's largely being recommended, mandated by US EPA?
That's correct.
Okay. What are the practical ramifications for us with these changes?
Well, what practical ramifications is that with the code that's currently in place, and what we're going to is a little more stronger as it is on enforcement with our, say, our industrial users, the ones that could potentially cause impact to the treatment plant.
Follow up, Mayor? Is this just step one of a certain plan of action, or where are we going down the road with this?
Well, let's see. This communication or the modification of the ordinance is through like the legal office of US EPA. There's also a parallel desktop audit that's taking place with operations and compliance. And then we are also having communications with IEPA as to upgrades to our treatment plant.
So what he's trying to, I'll take it over from, what he's trying to dance around is this morning we were notified by US EPA that they believe that IEPA is moving too slow. And they have IEPA was going to give us a year to establish a new set of standards for testing. US EPA told us that they don't believe that IEPA standards are correct. So they're going to give us a new set of standards we are going to bring forward in front of council. We don't have the ability to do those testing standards. We're going to have to hire Fairgram to do it. So we're going to get Fairgram to, they're giving us a bid. It's probably going to cost us from 80 to 100,000 to do those testing standards. And then US EPA will make a decision on what we have to do. They also told us that they're not happy with the 20-year modification plan that IEPA has given us for our wastewater treatment facility. So we may be Randy and I have been through this in other communities. This is a precursor to a possible consent order coming from US EPA.
Follow up, Mayor? Thanks for the update on it, though. I mean, it is what it is on that, but and we'll play it down the road. But as far as this goes and these recommendations, I mean, are these things that, I mean, obviously, are these things that should be incorporated regardless of whether we have these other things going on with the US EPA or the Illinois EPA?
Oh, yes, definitely. And the template that was used for this is used throughout the nation in communities large and small. So it's a model that they use, and we're looking to adopt.
Follow up, Mayor. On page 53 of 67, specifically section 1046.39, there's some increases in fees for hookups. Do these also come as recommended by US EPA, or were those, what was the rationale for those?
1046.39.
And then on the, yeah, I don't have it up yet. Just hold on.
Well, let's see, the process started in February of 2017, and then past that time, there were modifications to acknowledge that the Water and Sewer Commission is no longer a commission, it's now a department under the city. Now it's a division under Public Works. And then there were also some fee modifications, basically April, May of 2018, that were incorporated. So this is like a wholesale cleanup.
Okay, so this is incorporating the current fee structure. It's just the ordinance was out of date as to what it was
Correct,
saying.
yeah.
Perfect,
Yeah,
okay,
let's,
thank you.
Update everything.
Gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions, council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll on the passage of 2020-11?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 11 is the second reading of ordinance 2020-12. Could you please read this?
An ordinance amending Chapter 1220 Planning Commission, Chapter 1222 regarding the official zoning map, Chapter 1224 subdivision regulations, Chapter 1484 condominiums, and official comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we had briefed in the last council meeting, this is modification, taking out the vice chairman and secretary, and it places the planning commission minutes responsibility under the economic and community development or their designated representative, and also changes in the ordinance from strictly the plan to the comprehensive plan maintained by the planning commission, which is their guidance under which the zoning map and all other things dealing for economic development had this ordinance had last been modified prior to the city having a comprehensive plan. So,
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Just one question, and you probably addressed it last time, but again, I wasn't here. What was the rationale behind the elimination of the vice chair and secretary?
it was, the department heads are now serving as the secretary for all the different boards. And the vice chairman that was just a discussion and recommendation as we went forward from our attorneys. Most of these boards just have a chairman.
And I guess follow up on that, and that's not going to affect the operation, and that there's still going to be the same number of individuals on the planning commission. There weren't any specific special powers endued in the vice chair or secretary.
No, it doesn't change it. So what happens is if the chairman, much as if the mayor's absent here, you elect from the panel there, they nominate somebody. The initial meeting is called to order by the department head who is serving as the secretary, much as the clerk does here, and then they select a chairman.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the passage of ordinance 2020-12?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
Item number 12, second reading of ordinance 2020-13. Could you please read this for the record?
An ordinance amending Chapter 1270 fences, Section 1270.07, fences permitted without a permit of the Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This ordinance is in regards to the placement of snow fences inside the city right-of-way. The intent on snow fences has always been that the city should place it to control snow drifting where the city deems it to be necessary. With that as it's the heart of a snow fence, this ordinance puts it solely on the responsibility of the city to place that snow fence.
Discussion, council. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the passage?
Parker,
Aye.
Busker,
Aye.
Brashaw,
Aye.
Meissick,
Aye.
Berbere,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
McClanathan,
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 8-0.
And item number 13 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-14. Could you please read this?
Ordinance adopting a policy regarding the designation of handicap parking spaces on public streets and residential areas when requested by citizens.
Thank you. Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. There really is no set process right now for a resident to request a handicap parking spot. So this ordinance puts into effect a new paper or a new request form that would be placed on the website that would kind of step a resident through on the process of it. It also lays out any responsibilities that the homeowner may have to place it in specific locations as opposed to at the end of a block.
And this was done in accordance with the IDOT-ADA compliancy requirements. So, and this came from, we've seen an increase in requests from handicap spots, and we didn't have a standard. We initially had talked about posting a standard on the website, discussions with Attorney Zito and Attorney Zisnowski. They felt that since this is a policy decision, we needed to make sure that the council approved it in ordinance type fashion.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Bradshaw.
thank you. Manager Crowe, are we mirroring any other communities' method in this?
There are a few other communities that I was finding that we have mirrored this form from. That would be the best I would have.
A follow-up? Thank you. I want to thank you for working on this. This, I'm hoping, will help solve some of our aldermanic problems when we have people constantly request these parking situations, and we can explain to them about the curb cutting and having to do it in a certain manner. And if they already have the driveway, now we have that parameter to also follow that. They don't need it if they have a driveway right there that they can park in. Because I do often get calls about this, and I want to thank you for putting it in writing so we can refer them to this as well.
Alderman Burberry.
Yes, thank you. Director Carr, what if there's no sidewalk in certain parts of town? There are no sidewalks. From the curb in, how far, or is there just a setback that will occur then?
So if there is no sidewalk, then it wouldn't actually be ADA compliant. The handicap ramp would have nothing to tie into, so it wouldn't really make any sense to have a handicap parking spot without any sidewalk to get from the road to the house.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Bradshaw.
I'd like to make a motion to move this forward.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any further discussion? If not, we have a motion made by Alderman Bradshaw, seconded by Alderman Ross, to move ordinance 2020-14 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 14 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-15. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 1024 excavations to create a new Section 1024.37 fiber optic conduit.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is coming out of discussions that we've had with several of our partners, Arrow, Fairgram, and as they are putting conduit in, we may repair a street, or and they have to go back and put the conduit in to run fiber. So one of the recommendations in our discussion with Arrow, and then when I went to the ILCMA conference, I found that many communities are pre-writing into their contracts to put conduit and handholds in so you can run fiber throughout. And Kurt's been working with Arrow to make sure we have the right standard, but it's as we go forward, this will, so that direct, and the reason we're putting it in an ordinance is because it will cause an increase in our streets, water and sewer. So basically every time we do a cut for putting in water and sewer, before we repair the street, we're going to put this running a conduit to allow fiber to be run within the city. And Kurt, can you go through the standards real quick?
It was basically what our general bury depth is going to be, what the size of the handholds will be, and kind of probably most importantly what the material and the amount of inner ducts within the single duct will be, just to standardize it across the city.
And it's seven ducts within this that'll have pull through.
Basically, there's 7 conduits within the one big conduit.
The other thing is Fairgram, we're talking with them because the handholds, they want to make sure that it's set off to the side, so because you have to put a steel handhold in, so in the design work it'll be set off because if it's put in the center of the street or in the street, it costs, the conduit costs go up because the type of reinforcement has to go. So all that will be, as we said, we worked with both Fairgram and Arrow as we went forward and put this ordinance together.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Bradshaw.
thank you. I was reading with great interest that it said that you would use a minimum 4-inch pipe or conduit, and I thought you might need a larger one if you're going to put several fibers through that, but is that standard then, a 4-inch conduit?
That's pretty standard. They're very thin fibers. So you can get a lot packed into a small space.
Thank you.
Attorney Zito.
Kurt, just one question. Did you say that there needs to be a minimum of 7 interducts within each conduit?
That's our running recommendation.
Okay.
We got that
Right, so,
from our partner.
okay, and that's fine. I just want to point out then, our office wasn't sure what standard was, so we had put in 4 based off of some models that we had seen, so I'll tweak that between now and second reading, just make it 4, just for the councils.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
do we have any idea as to what the the level of increased cost is on this?
So when we were looking, Kurt, do you have that numbers?
I don't have the exact.
So when we were looking at the conduit, when I was going through Fairgram, it runs about $1,200 to $1,600 per 100 feet of running. Now the handholds are various depending on the type of handhold they have to go into it. So.
Follow up, Mayor?
And it sets in, so it has a pull-through wire. They just connect it and pull right through it.
All right, so this is something that with some proper pre-planning, will allow us to have these things in place for whenever individuals need to use these going on down the road. And it is probably, I don't know, it's kind of an ease of development of smart resources of the city to spend this money now to have something in place as it's put out there.
So the major cost of putting conduit in is either the boring or the cut, and so that we would eliminate that cost in this, and then we would own the conduit, so we could charge whatever company that wants to come through it and pull through the conduit.
Go ahead.
It's not an exact number, but my understanding is it's significantly cheaper to put the conduit in the ground, like fractions, than it is to bore. That's one of them. Then also there is a possibility to lease those extra ducts inside the main conduit.
And that's what I found out. ILCMA, some of the Chicago area are leasing their conduit. So what they do is they put the conduit in and then lease it to the companies to run the fiber.
Mayor,
Alderman Ross.
how far in the ground, how far down into the ground would a conduit, fiber conduit be?
Right now, it's looking like it's going to be between 24 and 30 inches, depending on if you're in the grass or under a road.
Follow up. The reason why I asked that question, would it be free from tree roots, any obstruction, or anything like that?
It's kind of a closed system, so it's pretty tough for tree roots to get in there. They find a way sometimes, but it's the industry standard. It's probably about the best you can do to keep them out.
Okay.
Mayor? And I'm sorry if this is something you've answered already. This would require the installation of the cable, not just an area for the cable to go, but actual cable.
It's not the cable, it's the conduit. In which the cable, so it's for a fiber passing, the conduit would go in. So there's no fiber in it, and it would only be run once they're ready to run the fiber. So we would lease then the conduit passage, the fiber to go into it.
Thanks, that answers my question.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
it seems like a pretty forward-thinking plan here for laying out the planning of our city. I'd make a motion to move it forward.
Second.
Unless there's any other discussion, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Busker to move ordinance 2020-15 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 15 is the first reading of ordinance 2020-16. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 298, Court Procedures, Section 29802, Service Fees.
Thank you. Chief Summers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As part of our normal function at the police department, we accept bond for people who get arrested or have a warrant and bonds assessed to them to make sure that they show up in court. Last year, we accepted bond for 447 different people. And speaking with their shift commanders who are responsible for taking bond, that takes about a half hour each time somebody has to come in and post bond. Illinois statute allows us to add a $20 administrative fee for the processing of the bond. Traditionally, the administrative fees are used to recoup some of the cost for doing business and providing services, and this is certainly a service that we provide the citizens here in Freeport. There's nothing that mandates us to take the bond at the police department. It's a service that we provide. So it kind of aligns with our strategic plan, being a responsive and efficient government. So we're looking to move forward with adding that additional $20 administrative fee for posting a bond.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you. Well, I wasn't sure I was going to mention this, but speaking from experience, it is much more pleasant to bail or bond out someone at the local police office than it is at the jail. I have had a worker I've bonded out at the police station before, and it's a lot less scary to do that and hand over $1,300 or $1,500 in cash than it is to go to the jail and try to put your dollar bills in and have them spit them back and then having to send somebody to go change those dollar bills out at some store in the middle of the night or whatever time is you're trying to bail someone out of jail. Not talking about any tenant in specific, but there are times where I've had a tender heart and have tried to help people out. So that service to me is well worth it for that $20, and it wasn't my family member. I can't imagine if you were very stressed and you had a passel of kids with you or whatever, you wouldn't want to have to go to the jail to bail out daddy or Uncle Fred or whatever. It might be a little more pleasant to just go to the police station and do it, and it's not quite so scary or scarring for a family. So I'm in support of this $20. I know it's just a small fee. It may seem like a lot of money to some people, but I wasn't even involved in it, and I was very ashamed to go to the jail. That's just my 2 bits on it.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
Alderman Parker.
Now, I do know there's people come in with their bond, and they only have exactly what the bond is. If they don't have that $20, what are you gonna do?
There's going to be a period of education that we're going to have to do. People are familiar that the Stevens County Sheriff's Department already uses that bond or that extra fee, so they're familiar that the fee can't come up there. There's going to be some posters being put up in the front lobby requiring them to have that fee when they come in.
So if they don't have it, they go to jail then?
Correct.
And the bond is set by a judge, $1,000 bond, they walk in with just $1,000, and they don't have that 20 that a judge didn't set, we're setting by ordinance, they go to jail.
Correct.
Okay, I'm against it, thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
let's say they have a $1,000 bond and they go to the Stevenson County Jail. Isn't there a processing fee that's also added on if they bond out at the jail?
There is. They'd have to have an extra $60 at the jail.
So they can either bond out for $1,020 at your place, or they'd have to bond out for $1,060 at the jail?
That's correct.
Well,
Alderman Parker.
makes sense, but the judge sets the bond. So I guess I don't understand how we can add additional to the bond if a judge has already set it. The judge holds a heck of a lot more authority. And and I understand the county doing it, and I agree, it's a lot easier to process at the city. The argument the shift commander takes a half hour, I don't buy that. I don't mind getting the extra fee. Shift commander's there working anyway. He's drawing his wages for the 12 hours he's working, and whether he's out in the doing something or he's taking in bonds. So But I do understand it's nice to have the extra fee, but I guess I don't understand if somebody don't have it, they go to jail because they have 99.9% of it, so. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Busker?
Yes, could you refresh my memory? I know you said earlier, how many people have we offered that service to in the last year?
In 2019, we posted bond on 447 individuals.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Ross?
Yes, Chief Summers. When you say administrative fees, what would that be used for? I mean, I understand administrative fees, but where will it actually go?
It would go back to the general fund for the overall use of, for the city.
Excuse me for the.
It would come back to the city's budget, not something specific to the police department.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw?
I'd like to make a motion to move this forward.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, unless there's any other discussion. We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Borneman to move ordinance 2020-16 to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 16 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-15. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Resolution approving a proposal agreement with Howard Lee and Sons Incorporated for a fuel management system at Island Avenue.
Thank you. Director Carr?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. If anybody's been out to the island facility, if you look at the computer sitting in between the two pumps, that would be our current fuel software system. It's pretty antiquated. It's a Petrovend. And if you want to see what it really looks like, if you take a step inside the island facility, you'll hear the dot matrix printer running every time somebody comes in and purchases fuel with their cards. The system that we have right now, Howard Lee has kind of told us that once the brains go out of that computer, we'll have to shift everything to manual, and then it will be no longer recording any of the information. It's past its usable life. We've placed it in the capital budget. We actually budgeted quite a bit more than what this has come in at. This is the only fuel system that is supported with Sourcewell contracting, which eliminates our need for having to go out for bid. So all of the departments in the city use this. So does the Housing Authority in Pretzel City. So all of us kind of together are looking at the purchase of this new system. It'll bring it up to the 21st century, and it'll allow us to actually run reports on our computer as opposed to manually typing in all the data. So the cost of this for the installation and all of that would come out to $18,485.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Brashaw?
Thank you. I read your report already, and it did say that a lot of it was manual entry already when it's already been printed up, and it has to be separated into separate amounts and typed in manually, and that takes employee staffing hours to do that. The new system that would be built right in, it would actually type over and separate all those accounts, correct?
Yes.
And I do believe we've already budgeted this amount, or close to it, in this year's fiscal budget.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt this resolution 2020-15.
Second.
Ray.
Any other discussion, council? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Berberay to adopt Resolution 2020-15. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker?
Aye.
Busker? Brashaw?
Aye.
Misick?
Aye.
Berberay?
Aye.
Borneman?
Aye.
McClanathan?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 17 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-16. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving an agreement with Phelps Uniform Specialists.
Manager Crowe.
No, that's actually Director Carr.
Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Currently have a contract with Aramark for the Street and Forestry Department, our division, to do both our rugs as well as our uniforms. This contract has gotten pretty unwieldy as we currently pay $577 a week. Yeah, you can all breathe again. It has kind of been in the forefront of on the back burner, however you want to call it, in the minds of both Randy and myself. Probably since we got here, it was signed into contract before I started, but a company called Phelps out of just across the border in Iowa has approached us, and they have offered us a contract that would be at about $150 a week. So even by going breach of contract, there would be a savings of over $5,000 between now and September.
And what he means by breach of contract, we actually have to pay Airmark out in this contract, so.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Bradshaw.
Yeah, I understand buying out those contracts, like when your cell phone dies and you gotta buy the new one, you gotta finish paying for the other contract and just get rid of it. To have something that actually works. Well, it sounds like you'll save money, but is this just gonna be a chaser rate? Have they talked to you about they generally have an increase per annual?
Yes, I believe what we have committed to them, they have said that they won't raise it until April 1st of next year, and their maximum increase would be 8%. And then talking with the gentleman, usually after the second year, they try to lock you in with a new rate, so they don't want to raise it again because they want to keep your business. So his assumption is you would get 2 8% increases every 3 years.
Mayor. Director Carr, what is the, at this rate here, what is their quality of equipment or material that they're gonna supply the city with?
It is to the same extent of what we have with Aramark.
It's gonna be, as same quality, should we say?
Yes.
A follow-up. And, can you tell me how he presented that? I mean, did he bring you something or what, or just word of mouth?
He has worked with both companies.
Huh?
This gentleman has worked with both companies.
Okay. All right.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Bradshaw.
I'd like to make a motion to move this forward. Resolution adoption of Resolution 2020-16 with the Phelps Uniform Specialists.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Alderman Bradshaw, seconded by Alderman Ross. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Meissick.
Aye.
Berbere.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 18 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-17. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving an agreement with OnSolve for Code Red notification services.
Thank you. Director Sutman.
Yeah, he's going to hand it off to me to begin with. So we've actually been looking at Code Red for 3 years here. And what's happened is over the last 2 years, their price has come down significantly. Additionally, we were able to, with some of the FEMA money that we received post the flooding in March, they have actually set aside, this is one of the things that we can do. Code Red is an emergency notification. It uses all of the phones, cell phones and landlines in the area. It does a notification via text and phone call. Additionally, it will automatically post on our Facebook page, on our website, and on our in any other accounts, Twitter accounts that we have, automatically with notifications. Where this came really to a head is that I'll talk to when we had the we thought about this really pushing forward on this was when we had the chemical spill over at Modern Plating, and we did not have a way to notify after we said to stay in place. We didn't have an opportunity or a way to notify everybody to all clear. Now, what's nice with this new system is they download our GIS files and associate the phones with those GIS files based upon the locations, and we can, it's just a touch finger, draw a line, and they will notify a particular set of numbers in that we have a boil order. We can send out boil orders. If we have another chemical spill, they actually directly download the files that the police get, the fire and police get, the fire get, like where the cloud plume is moving, and notify all of those individuals automatically. We can load it in. Police, if they're doing a Amber Alert, or if we have a shots fired, or we have something, they can load a circle into the GIS, and will automatically call up and notify everybody to be on the lookout in the area for suspects. There are preloaded responses, as well as members in the community, members on the staff. We'll have the fire chief, the police chief, myself, public works director. We'll have emergency notifications where we log in and we can type it in. The utilities director, where we have an emergency going on, and we can notify everybody. What's also interesting is that we can notify people throughout the community if we suddenly have to bring up a snow emergency. So if we change, I'll use an example. Was it 4 weekends ago? We were supposed to get a ½ inch of snow. We decided not to declare a snow emergency. We ended up getting 5 inches of snow and got absolutely beat up because we didn't tell everybody we had a snow emergency. So we can automatically send out a snow emergency. We additionally get 6 notifications, where administrative notifications, where we can go out and do the 6 as part of this plan. We went to a 5-year contract. We can pay it all up front, and that fixed in at the $6,700, $6,900 per year. When I looked at this, when we looked at this 3 years ago, it was in the area of 19,000, so it's significantly come down, and we had a demonstration of it, and it has, the resource has improved. This is the standard, industry standard, and in fact, if we get it, the county, EMA is gonna try and push the county to go to this as well, since we're the largest number. And Kurt, is there anything you want to add to this?
Just the additional automatic natural disaster notifications.
Yeah, if the National Weather Service or somebody issues a notification, it'll also go out over our code red numbers. So, and the 911 will also have a login, and any 911 notifications they can put out.
Madam Mayor.
We can also put it down, so if we want to notify the staff for recall or something, that we can use code red to do that as well.
Mayor?
Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just lost my train of thought. Please forgive me. I had my question on the tip of my tongue, and now I completely forgot what it was. Oh, I know what it was. And obviously, I'm assuming you can let people know when the Pecatonica River is flooding, or the areas that we need to be aware of along Yellow Creek as well.
Yes. And that would be more of a citywide notification, and then if we were evacuating, it would be a localized area notification. And what they do is they use a combination of several databases as well as our water, and they load all those numbers into it so that people are pre-notified.
One more follow-up. I'm assuming this is for cell phones only?
They actually go cell phone line and landlines. So what they do is they pick up the landline, and there's an automated call on it that says code red notification. They demonstrated in their code red notification when we got our demonstration. This is a code red notification. You have an emergency in this area, or you have a water main break in this area. Please you're placed under boil order, or you be aware of that this emergency.
So it'll actually call their telephone?
Yes.
Okay.
And then for the non-emergency, you can opt out, but for the emergency, residents cannot opt out.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman.
I have a handful of questions. You said that the price has gone down, so so it used to be 19,000 a month or a year?
A year.
Now it's 6,000, 8,
When we looked at this 3 year, after the first flooding, I experienced, Kurt and I started looking at this. And this is, Code Red's been around for, what, I'm gonna ask Brad, for a long time.
So the next question, once we enter this contract, will there be a policy on how this is used?
Yes, there will be.
And that's something that will be presented to council as well?
It will be.
Because this is pretty common around college campuses, and I definitely see the benefit of this, but it'd be nice to make sure we have some type of policy in place to when it's justified to use. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Berberay, did you have a?
Thank you, Mayor. I think my question got answered because there'll be a policy, but your thinking is who would be the individuals on your team that would be able to pull the trigger?
So the fire chief, police chief, utilities director, myself, public works director,
Okay.
and probably the deputy city manager as well.
Is that a group decision or just curious, based on who's in town?
It's, well, no, each one will have, like, if we have a water main break or a sewer
Okay.
collapse, that'll be the utilities director. We have a fire or the EMA coordinator for the city is the fire chief, so if he has to stand up a command center. Overall emergencies, that would be, I would issue those snow emergencies, they would, public works director.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Alderman Parker.
this sounds fantastic, so I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion, council? We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Busker for the adoption of Resolution 2020-17. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor, could you repeat the second? I'm sorry.
Busker.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Meissick.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 8-0.
Item number 19 is the motion to reject a bid from the opening on February 25th for the MFT materials. Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We had placed our MFT materials out for bid, and in that bid package, we were looking for a unit price for both asphalt as well as cold patch. When bids were opened, we only received one bid, and it was from Martin and Company out of Oregon, Illinois. The only thing that they had bid on was asphalt. When we were looking back at the bid, we'd also like to include some aggregate surface course so that way we can redo some of the shoulder work along Adams and Stevenson. So with that in mind, and with only having one bidder, staff would request that council rejects the bid, and then we change our bid package and resubmit to IDOT to add that aggregate surface course in, and then have a new bid opening in 3 weeks, I think is what it would have to take.
But right now, you're just looking for rejection, is all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
I will help reject it. I make a motion to reject the bid.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion, council? We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker for the rejection of the bid as stated. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Meissick.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
Item number 20 is the motion to approve a bid that was opened February 26th for ash tree removal. Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We had placed the ash tree bid out very close to the same time as the MFT materials. We had the bid opening, and we received 3 bids. 2 were relatively local, with one being from around Monroe and one being from German Valley. And then we had another bidder come in from over near Chicago. Of those 3 bids, the non-local firm was the low bidder with a total price of $127,300. If you remember last year when we put these out from bid, that number is significantly lower than what bids we received last year at the end of the year. So staff would request that council award the bid for the ash tree removals to Clean Cut Tree Service out of Grays Lake, Illinois, for a value of $127,300 to remove the 67 ash trees.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan?
And while you say it was lower, that 127,300 is about, what, 53,000 lower than the next low bid?
Yes.
And the other two bidders also did not have the apprentice requirements. There's a requirement for any IDOT MFT money that they have an apprentice program. And we actually, after we got done with the bid, walked them through that requirement. So when we come up for this bid, because we're going to put out another bid later in the year, they understand what the apprentice program requirement is.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman?
obviously, we're gonna approve this, but any history or information on this particular company and the quality of their work?
Looking at their affidavit for the amount of work they've got is they've got well over $1 million in contracts right now with IDOT for tree removal. Using that as kind of the kickoff point, I would like to think that they're highly qualified to come in town and take down the 67 ash trees.
I would make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman McClanathan to approve the bid for the ash tree removal. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Meissick.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, next we'll move on to department head reports. Finance.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing to add to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. And community development.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the facade improvement grant program. Applications for that were due on this past Friday. We ended up with 7 applications, which is about twice as many as we had last year. So good to see that interest in revitalizing downtown.
Yes, thank you. And Director Carr.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. With the weather kind of turning nice right now, our guys are out patching every day. They're also kind of looking forward to getting away from patching and into some inlet rebuilds. So if you're out driving around, please be aware that construction crews are going to start working on the roads with the weather turning the way it is.
Thank you. And fire department.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to thank our participants for the Battle of the Badges this weekend. Police department whooped our tail 38-32. We raised, Chief said, about just under $1,000 for the hands-on museum for children, so I thought that was pretty awesome. And I want to thank City Manager Lowell and our City Clerk Dubby for helping us out at helping the fire department out at halftime with a few free throws in our name. I appreciate it very much. We needed all the help we could get. So the fire department this week applied for Office of State Fire Marshal's small equipment grant. We were seeking some funding for some saws, a forcible entry trainer, and some extrication equipment, so we'll see how that goes. But it's a no-match grant, and I'm hopeful that we can add those things to our response repertoire. And then also, in a spirit of cooperation and continuing to build teamwork, PD and fire are meeting to get together on fire investigations tomorrow, and just making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row and we are working together on some of these difficult fire investigations. And we have a great partnership with them, and Chief Summers been an awesome partner for us. So thank you very much. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Police.
I just want to piggyback on what the fire chief said about everyone coming out and supporting us. Saturday was really fun, and supported a bunch of great athletes out playing basketball. So thanks again.
Water and sewer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
My lab manager, Scott Kerr, and I were over in Rockford today, and there was a meeting as it relates to starting a watershed group for the Pecatonica and the Rock Rivers. It was held over at the Rock River Water Reclamation District. Say that 3 times. And what it is that we're looking to get together as a group to look to improve the waterway. And one thing with it is that with having a larger group of municipalities coming together, there's going to be economies of scale as far as testing that IEPA and US EPA is going to look to have us do. And I'll look to have further information a couple of months on out. That's all.
Great, thank you very much. And IT. And Director Hines.
The census form is going to be coming out in just 2 weeks now. You will start receiving mail March 12th, so you may have one by the next council meeting, you may not. They'll be mailed out between the 12th and the 20th. They're going out in waves, so people can respond online, and it's not, the website isn't blowing up on you. But every household will get a code to respond online. You'll use that code to access the questionnaire. If you don't have the code on you, you lose the form. You're still able to fill out the form. You can just put in your address. It's as easy as that. It's only going to be 9 questions, so 10 minutes long. You're never going to be asked information about your social security, citizenship status, religious or political affiliation, or your bank information. So if you get anything that asks you any questions like that, probably don't answer it. And your information is going to be safe and secure and protected by Title 13 federal law. It impacts funding that goes out to hospitals, roads, schools, for building infrastructure, and it affects the drawing of the legislative districts and the number of seats in our House. And you'll be able to self-respond through April. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. And Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I met with representatives from IEMA, FEMA, the county, and Congresswoman Bustos' office on Friday. We are expecting the pre-disaster mitigation grant notification by the end of May, first week in June. The next set of grants, we have already submitted the hazardous HMGP grant, which we submitted based upon the flooding, will not be determined at what limit until they determine who and what level the pre-disaster mitigation grant is given to us. It is being tracked at the highest level. Our grant is being tracked at the highest level of the state by the Chief of Staff at IEMA, Illinois Emergency Management Association, as well as Congresswoman Bustos' Chief of Staff in DC, and both of them were on the phone call. So as we get more information, we'll feed that back. Illinois Department of Natural Resources is telling us that they're going to give us more money for the purchase of businesses as we're going out east of the Pecatonica, and Kirsten and I will be attending the state stormwater conference next Wednesday and Thursday to work and coordinate with individuals about that, and we're also giving a brief on what we're doing and how we're moving forward here in the city of Freeport. That's all I have, Mayor.
Good, thank you. Last weekend was National Girl Scout Cookie Week. So if you have not had the chance to get your box of cookie, or maybe 5 or 6 of them, you will notice that throughout the week there will be places that the Girl Scouts will be setting up booths in high traffic areas. So if you need to have that, you could probably see them at Walmart or Farm and Fleet, Cubs, and possibly Sullivan's. So you always have that last minute possibility. And for council members, on Wednesday at 9 a.m. we are having a police swearing in, as far as I think it's still on, right? No? Was it canceled?
It's probably canceled.
Okay. Well, then never mind, don't come. Well, here's a piece of information that I do know. In December, I was invited to the White House for Women in Municipal Government Leadership. So I was at the White House during Christmas season. And out of that, I was able to speak to the executive director for the Revitalization Council. I went up to him after the conference was done, and I invited him to come to Freeport whenever he felt that he could do that in his schedule and help us with our opportunity zones, because we quite honestly don't have the tools in order to accomplish all that they are proposing. So he has accepted the invitation, and him and his team of federal agencies will be here roughly the middle of May, or middle of March, which is soon, just a few weeks away, and we have sent out invitations to the area developers, investors, some business owners, and a few key leaders to see how we would make the most of this opportunity. So we will be hosting that and discussing the best practices for revitalization, investment, and collaboration at all levels between government and businesses, as well as streamlining, coordinating, and targeting the existing federal programs that can help us towards those opportunity zones. So I am looking forward to the potential that this could have for our community. So I just wanted to keep you informed that some real positive things have come out of that conference, and looking forward to what the future holds in that. And that leaves us with council announcements. Alderman Parker.
The only thing is, I'm sorry, I missed the basketball game. I had to be in St. Louis that day, but it's the first one I've missed, but good job, policeman. That's it.
And Alderman Busker.
Nothing this evening.
And Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you, Mayor. This Thursday, we have a neighborhood watch meeting at Schwartz Funeral Chapel on Park Boulevard at 6 p.m. That's for 6th Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Misick.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. And Alderman Berberet.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
And Alderman Borneman.
I'd like to thank Chief Summers for the 25 years of service in Freeport, and thank you. And Mr. Berberet for his recent donation to help out the city as well. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman McClenathan.
I just follow up on both of those comments there. Thank you. Thank you.
And Alderman Ross.
Ditto to what Alderman McClanahan said.
All right. And that leaves us with public comment. Is there any public comments this evening? Yes, sir. You could stand to the microphone and you'll have 3 minutes. Well, maybe you can cut it up and come.
To get it across, I can't. I'm here on petition to relation to the increase in the city and water and sewer rates, because I can't afford them. Nobody can afford $100 a month water bills. It's totally ridiculous. And I tried to call my alderman, and they don't answer their phone. They might as well throw them in the river, because they don't answer them. Anyway, we, the unsigned residents of Freeport, are opposed to all the capital improvements fee increases without residents' permission. Therefore, we, the petitioner, respectfully demand a retraction of the capital improvements fees, as well as demand all the other increases that are subject to citizens' rights for referendum. I have went around and collected on my own. I got sick, but I got 52 signatures from on Stevenson, Lincoln, and out in the Cherokee Hills subdivision. Here are all the names and addresses. And I'd like you to take a look at it if you know it. And then I went down to Township, and I asked for a printout of all the water bills that they had paid for people in Freeport, Illinois. Well, they have paid since 2019 to up to 2020 $72,000 in water bills that people couldn't pay because the city council raised their water rates. Somewhere this got to come to an end, and it has to be voted on on a referendum, not just a few certain people to go ahead and up your water bill. That's not, you're using the water bill as a checkbook. You can't do that. The citizens have the right, it's their money that's paying these water bills. And a lot of them evidently don't have it. One of them was an alderman at large, didn't pay his water bill. What's that tell you? It's too expensive. People cannot afford $100 water bills. So it's got to come. This is what I want. I want you to retract all these. Here's all the people that signed my petition. I'd have had a lot more, but like I say, I got sick. I think it ought to go in front. Everything that goes through ought to be in front of a referendum. Let's see. I had a bill here. Shouldn't have, one thing we shouldn't have you guys just misphrase everything. Capital improvements should be storm improvement and storm and water. It shouldn't be separate. And that road improvements, that should be on your gas tax. It's what you pay tax on your gasoline for your car for, to pay road improvements. It shouldn't even be on your water bill.
Your 3 minutes has far exceeded, but you are welcome to come back and share every time if you'd like.
I'm what?
Your time has exceeded.
Oh, well, okay.
We thank you. If you'd like to have further discussions at another time, you're always welcome to call.
3 minutes ain't enough time.
Are there any other public comments?
Andrew, you got the update about the chapel in Freeport? What?
They're all good with the permit, Tommy. Thank you.
And Diesel's taking the bricks out for the chapel because they're tearing down part of the chapel down and stuff.
I'm not sure what you're telling me, Tommy.
Diesel is taking the brick off because it's got mold in it, and they're going to tear part of it down for the sometime. I just saw them working on it, so.
Okay, you know a lot, Tommy.
And Andrew told me, Andrew.
It's just a demolition permit that's open for some work to be done.
Okay, well, thank you for keeping up on that, Tommy. Any other public comments? Sir, would you mind stating your name? That we just need it for public record.
Patrick Jones.
Thank you.
Patrick Jones? Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Then last is item number 26, which is executive session. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
Pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C11, litigation when action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the findings shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. Pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
Thank you. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Misick. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Misick.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Borneman.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
And Ross.
He stepped out.
Absent. So the motion does pass 7-0.